Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, February 24th, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're doing this stream live for the public, giving a little bit of an open house in terms of what we do with the Chart Guys community on a daily basis. We've got 5 different live streamers, and Monday is my day. So let's get into it. So first, we're going to look at the broader market, touch a bit on what happened to end last week, where we stand in terms of what we're looking at here in the short term. We're then going to look at some individual names. I'm going to talk a little bit about weekend preparation and things that I do to find setups that I'm looking at. And then I'm going to take some ticker requests from Chart Guys members. Then the bell's going to ring, and we're going to see if there's any trade setups that I like, but we'll be doing some commentary in terms of pointing things out. And in the meantime, if you're following us on Twitter, I posted a link in the chat there. If you comment anything on the link to this stream, I'm going to pick a winner to win a free Chart Guys membership at some point tomorrow. And there shouldn't be too many people to compete against for that. All right, so first things first, we had weakness to end last week. And again, what I care most about, bigger picture, is the weekly higher low pattern in the S&P 500 and on the NASDAQ. And really, that's been my mindset since the sucker punch flush from last summer, where my mindset from that point forward was the weekly higher lows are my guide, and I'm not changing my bullish lean until that changes. And so it is still intact at this point, but it's coming into play now, and it may be lost. And so that level is 590.49 on SPY. Break that level, and I then need to step back and say, okay, something has changed for the first time in however many months, 6 months or so, and we need to reassess things because the market environment has now shifted. If that level holds, the market environment does not shift in any meaningful way. And again, that's just from a bit more of a zoomed out perspective, from a swing trade perspective. That's my line in the sand. And for QQQ, that level is 510.15, a little bit more space to work with. So where we're shaping up is bounces from overnight futures open. And the most likely scenario on a ton of individual names after the big drop on Friday is that an hourly lower high is going to be the most likely result of this bounce. And so bears are scouting hourly lower high entries. Part of what we're going to talk about here with preparation over the weekend is Sunday. 24 hours ago, if you asked me, what are you going to be doing on Monday in terms of a trade? I couldn't tell you, because if we gap down, I'd be looking for a long. But if we're opening higher, I'm going to be scouting that hourly lower high because that is the most likely scenario. And the information that we're going to get on the morning has to do with bounce retracement size to help us determine probabilities, where bulls are hoping to bounce 50% plus from the drop. So just looking at QQQ, if the bulls are going to get what they want, we need another solid leg up to the 532s. And we can compare individual names that only bounce 382 retracement. And if you want more information on the fibs, just go on our site and look up fibs. But, bears want to see an inability to get over 382 retracement to keep it a weak bounce and a potential bear flag. And bulls want to see a bigger bounce to create the space for an hourly higher low. Because we're opening higher, for me personally, I'm not an aggressive bull right now. I don't have high conviction that we aren't going to break weekly support. So what I need to go bullish or look for a bullish trade is a big enough hourly bounce where I'm then confident an hourly higher low is the most likely scenario, and I look for the hourly higher low entry. So that means I need to let the bounce play out. I need to see who bounces more significantly, who's creating that space. Then I get interested in that hourly higher low. But again, in the meantime, I'm keeping an eye out for that hourly lower high as the most likely scenario. If we look at XLF, the financial sector, its bounce is already much more significant than the NASDAQ in terms of Friday's drop. So here in pre-market, we've already recovered 50% of the drop from Friday. So there's more space in the financial sector above the lows of Friday compared to, say, the NASDAQ or whatever. That's how I'm comparing individual names in terms of their bounce retracement size. The names that bounce less are more likely to be bear flags to lower lows. The names that bounce more create the space for the hourly higher lows. So that's my framework in terms of what I care about in the short term. So I just told you what I care about on the weekly charts from a swing perspective. And now I just told you what I care about on the hourly charts for a 1 to 2 day perspective. Semiconductors are going to be important this week with NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Overall, we're pretty range bound. I mean, SMH has literally been sideways, decent volatility in both directions, but in the end, we're sideways here over the last 4 or 5 months. So waiting for something to convincingly break here. But we'll see what NVDA earnings does. The dollar is trying to shape up a bit of a falling wedge type of pattern. The daily downtrend is going to remain our guide, just like gold. The daily uptrend, there we go, all-time highs on gold being tested. But the daily uptrend's our guide here. We just keep setting these little incremental higher lows. So nothing changes as long as that is the case. That's a good sign for the gold bulls. And same thing, I can just, if I want to simplify things, I just say nothing changes if daily EMA 12 is support. When that is lost, okay, things shift. I'll zoom out and look for weekly consolidation. But if we're not losing that, nothing changes from this strong uptrend. Silver has been weaker than gold overall. You can see now we're not testing recent highs. It's more of a daily equilibrium shaping up. Let's go to the 12-hour on silver. A little bit more detail, but you can just see essentially a tightening range. Trying to set a 12-hour higher low here. I am interested in GDX for a weekly higher low. Again, I like, let's see, pre-market here. So doing pretty much what the NASDAQ is doing, not much different. But I like the possibility that this is a cup and handle type of pattern with a triple top of 13-year-long resistance. And so I'm keeping an eye out in the next couple of weeks. Is that a weekly cup and handle? And I'll be talking about that a bit more in the future in terms of how I'm going to go about making an attempt on that, but need to let it play out a little bit first. Oil, bear break with no follow through. We're just going to keep the daily downtrend as our guide. That's nice and clear. I do care what oil is doing, not because I'm trading oil, but because I do have an energy sector swing from a couple months ago. And it's just a question of how is XLE going to break this weekly equilibrium, which is going to happen in early March. And obviously, oil is going to have some impact on the direction that that breaks. And we'll see if energy is going to give us a weekly lower high. Need to see a break of 89.98 for that weekly lower high to be set. Natural gas pulling back a good bit to start the week. Daily consolidation underway. Still space for the daily higher low. But again, bigger picture, if we are going to reject from this most important resistance zone, then this is where we would reject. So definitely paying extra attention, knowing that we may be shaping up for weekly consolidation or even monthly consolidation if we cannot clear this very important resistance hurdle. And again, this is a position I've been in for a while. If it were a bigger position, if I hadn't taken any profit, this is definitely where I would be doing so at that long-term resistance. But at this point with my current position size, I'm just going to let it play out. And I'll either stop out when the weekly higher lows are lost, or I'll hit my target in the $5 plus range. So being patient there. And we got Bitcoin sideways, nothing going on here. Again, just very range bound. Again, we want to keep it simple. Bitcoin has not confirmed a daily uptrend since all-time highs. That's now over a month with no daily higher low and higher high. And if that's going to change, we've got to hold 93.3 and break 99.5. If that doesn't happen, nothing changes. And the bears keep the short-term control as we continue to trade sideways. And again, both Bitcoin and the NASDAQ and S&P 500, essentially 3 months of sideways trading right now. We know summers are often slow, and we know we've got a couple months until summer. That tells me we're going to see a volatility spike in markets, generally speaking, March, April, before summer, in my opinion. That's the most likely scenario. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. All right, so before going to ticker requests from some Chart Guys members, I want to talk about a concept that I talk about a lot, which is a conveyor belt of trades. So over the weekend, I'm doing my homework, right? I'm making the video that many of you watched on YouTube, and I'm going through the sectors, and I'm just seeing everything as, we reflect upon what happened over the week. And I lay out, the trades that I'm watching. And as we know, you can get very overwhelmed in markets because there's tons of things to be watching. I find organizing things by time as the best way to not get overwhelmed, where the things that I care about on the shortest time frame, I know I'm going to be watching first. So an hourly setup, I'm going to be paying attention to that more closely than a monthly setup. So here's what I got from over the weekend of just, I can add more to this, but this is essentially what was standing out most convincingly to me. The short term, I'm watching PLTR. We'll talk about that setup in just a moment. Midterm, I'm watching weekly setups. I'm watching OKLO for a weekly higher low, GDX, which we just talked about, RGTI, all these names. So feel free to pause and, I'm not going to go through each of these individually, but you can check these out on your own. And, different setups are going to be preferable to different people in terms of their trading style and their time frame. Long-term are the monthly setups that I'm watching, and then real long-term 3-month time frames. But again, that's how I know that I don't need to care about these monthly charts this morning. From 9:30 a.m. when the bell rings to noon, I don't care about the monthly setups at all. I will check in on them every couple of days, but again, it just helps me to get my focus on which setups I care most about, the ones that are going to play out sooner because they're on shorter term time frames. So just going to PLTR here first. We know we've had a ton of volatility in PLTR recently. And the setup that I'm watching for this morning is an hourly higher low to try and form compared to the low of 95.80. And we can say there's relative weakness. And one of the reasons I like this Fidelity screen here is, again, it's my bird's eye view of the markets, but it helps me very easily see relative strength and weakness. How? I see QQQ is up, okay, SPY is up, so the markets are slightly green. And if something is down a good number of percent in the red, clearly that is showing relative weakness. If it's going to be doing what the market is doing, PLTR would be trading at 103 right now, being a couple percent, 1 or 2% above the high above where we closed on Friday. Just like SPY and QQQ are above where we closed on Friday. That's not the case. So that helps me quickly pick out strength and weakness. Apple is gapping down. It had a headline, but it's gapping down, and I can see there's clear relative weakness on Apple. We'll talk about Tesla in just a moment as well. So PLTR, again, if I were going to be looking long this morning, which I'm not, I would be keeping an eye on something that has a support level right nearby. This is the kind of setup where I look for either a hold of 95.80 or a break with zero follow through. But again, as I'm not an aggressive bull, I'm not going to be looking for this trade. Again, if QQQ and SPY were gapping down and I was looking for an hourly bounce with high conviction on the morning, then I'd be interested in the setup more. But that's not the current setup. And the last thing I want to do is try a long if SPY and QQQ are going to set a quick hourly lower high and potentially be a bear flag. Right now, hourly bear flags are still on the table. SPY and QQQ need another leg up after the bell rings if they're going to negate or try and negate the possibility of that bear flag. So we're heading into the open with bear flags as a possibility. But PLTR, clear support. It's low risk in that sense that there's a clear support to play off of. But bigger picture, if we break 95.80, there is a lack of support. We're back in gap-filled territory. And so I have to keep that in mind as well. There's not anything after 95.80 for a while. I'd then be looking at previous resistance, 84.80. Not much else. 97.29 is a little level there. So we'll see if PLTR can hold or not. If we do hold support or break it with zero follow-through, we then look for another lower high, because anything under the high of Friday, I'm just viewing this as a dump, bounce, and now we're back testing support, so I would be looking for an hourly lower high to be the result of any bounce from here. So we'll check in on Apple real quick because of its headline. So again, gap down. It's going to spend a bunch of money on U.S. manufacturing. So I guess expenditures going up. We also had a 9-day stair step. There was relative strength on Apple on Friday. And so that we're now breaking the stair step into daily consolidation. But we look at Apple and say, all right, anything above 227 is a daily higher low. So there is a ton of space for a daily higher low to be the result of this consolidation. But it's just getting started. And so we'll keep an eye out how much pullback we get on the daily out of Apple. Tesla volatility, pre-market. It was relative weakness. We were dropping real hard pre-market here, and we were down, 1 to 2% from the close, clearly showing relative weakness. Oftentimes, we see in markets all the time, someone knew the news and, you get volume or price action before a headline. This is the opposite, where this was, this surprised the market in the sense that they had complete bear control, and then out of nowhere, we shoot up on the headline that full self-driving, close to being implemented in China, and that goes straight into a 4.5%, almost a 5% bounce. So I do still have a Tesla swing position. Again, my break even at this point is down around 315. I'm going to let it play out. Bulls are really hoping this is a daily higher low, but if it's going to be a daily higher low, Tesla bulls, again, still viewing this the same context as SPY and QQQ. Anything under high of Friday, 355 we'll call it. Anything under 355 is an hourly lower high. This is just, I'm viewing this just as a straight drop. And we must confirm an hourly trend change back to bulls if we're going to set a daily high or low. So still going to look for an hourly lower high to be the result of this move on Tesla, but bounce retracement. The bounce retracement is now more significant than many other names. So we do have some space above that low that we hit pre-market 331. So wherever we top out, can we hold that higher low and higher high on the hourly to set a daily higher low? And then we'll just look to tighten up a little bit to start this week. But we know if the bulls are going to prove anything to us, we've got to get over 367 to confirm the daily uptrend, but one time frame at a time. And we'll keep an eye on the 5 minute. We can see there's a clear base of support right now on Tesla. What we care about first thing is 342.60s. If that breaks, we'll zoom out and we'll scout a 15-minute higher low. But again, bulls have proving to do. All right, a couple requests, 15 requests. UNH. So gap down on Friday, bulls bought the dip. Healthcare sector held on better Friday than XLF financials and tech and semis. So again, we have some space where bulls can form an hourly high or low. You know, I'd be viewing this as a big dump, a bounce, and bulls need to get over 469.70 to keep this bounce going. If the bell rings and we drop down and break the low pre-market, we'll say, okay, our hourly lower high is set. We then must hold the low of Friday and then confirm an hourly uptrend if this bounce is going to follow through. If the bell rings and we break the high of the end of Friday bounce first thing, we'll say the hourly lower high is not set yet. We know it's going to happen eventually, but we're just creating more space for an eventual hourly higher low attempt. And if looking at XLV as a whole, again, it's a much different standpoint, Friday's candle versus a lot of other sectors. XLP is another sector that had a good Friday. These are consumer staples. You know, it's trying to be a monthly bull flag back at all-time highs on XLP. And that's names like KO, big bounce, and follow through Friday. Pepsi, trying to put in a longer-term bottom. Just a couple places where there was strength in what seemed like a sea of red. And it definitely was a bunch of red Friday, but little pockets of green. Baba. So Chinese names have been on absolute fire. Definitely can't be looking long at this point without consolidation, and that consolidation is underway now. We're going to gap down. So aggressive bulls are watching hourly oversold. It's a little bit tricky. You know, we use our back burners and things like that, but it's tricky in the sense that this name has many more gaps because we trade in the foreign exchange overnight. So just be aware that it's not an ideal name to look for back burners with. Doesn't mean it can't work out, but it needs a little asterisk next to it in terms of just not being the ideal kind of setup for that pattern. But we're going to scout a daily high or low with tons of space for it to form. I'd consider, you know, there's no support nearby from a daily high or low. So I'd use this little dinky pivot, 124.95, as a level that bulls want to hold. Bigger picture, these white lines are outlining previous resistance that bulls want to hold, ideally on any weekly consolidation. Back test and hold this previous resistance as support. That's a potential target for patient bulls to be looking long. But we are going to be looking for a daily high or low. Now the consolidation is underway with the gap down open shaping up. Short-term support, 131.41 is a level to be watching. And that is from Thursday's support. CRSP. So we are looking for a daily high or low. We have retraced pretty significantly, which means we're keeping an eye out for the possibility that this forms a tightening range eventually. But the bears do still have control at the moment with the hourly downtrend as our guide. If we break 47.34, bears continue that full control. And again, if we bounce first thing, we're just looking for an hourly lower high, anything under 51.47. So just keeping the hourly downtrend as our guide, knowing the bulls have to show us some kind of reversal on the hourly is shaping up if the daily high or low is going to be set. We'll be keeping an eye on daily EMA 12, which will be in play if we break that low of Friday. So bears are still in short-term control. but bulls are keeping an eye out for something to shift on the hourly to try and shape up a daily higher low. And again, how you go about that is determined by whether you're conservative or aggressive. If you're conservative, you're going to miss a bounce. You're going to hope to miss a bounce. Give me a big hourly bounce to scout that higher low, which again is part of what is going on this morning with me. If I'm going to be looking bullish, I want a big enough bounce to create the space where I will scout an hourly higher low after the initial bounce has topped. ARM, another one where the hourly downtrend is full bear control. We had a tightening range break bear here. So daily equilibrium broke bear. Now we're looking back at weekly support. Bulls must hold 142.32 to try and maintain a weekly tightening range. But that's a double top at all-time highs. So definitely need to be cautious if we start losing uptrends one at a time. And we already lost the daily. So pre-market, we're going to test the low of Friday first thing. If that breaks, it's all about 142.32. And again, on any bounce, we'll call anything under the high of Friday as just an hourly lower high. Meta went from a lead bull to a bit of a lead bear. 20 green days in a row, and now a solid pullback. Daily stair-step drop, lower high every day, 4 days in a row. Hourly downtrend is our guide. So again, this is, a weak open at the moment where we're going to test the low of Friday first thing. 682, if that breaks, we're going to be looking at 675 as a support level. Can be keeping an eye out for a daily bounce. Again, obviously, a lot's going to depend on what the NASDAQ does. And we know eventually if the bears are going to take over control more convincingly, they will have to eventually confirm a daily downtrend. But again, just use that hourly as our guide. Even if we hold the low of Friday, that's, bulls playing defense initially, but I still will view anything under the high of Friday as just an hourly lower high. And again, just an individual comparison. So Meta, barely above the low of Friday. Let's see if we can find another tech name that has more space. So Amazon, look at just how different that is, just in terms of space for bulls to work with. So Amazon would need to drop 1.5% to get to the low of Friday. Meta is dropping there now, 0.3% away. So again, just easy little ways to compare individual names. Amazon bulls have more space to work with above support than Meta bulls do, at least first thing. MSTR, watch these monthly inside bars. If we break 292.32, then that's multiple monthly inside bars breaking bear. And if we don't break them in the next 4 days, this week, if we don't break them, we're going to break first thing to start March. And it will be 3 inside bars at that point. So key support is in play. Clear daily downtrend. Again, just every bounce since we topped out end of January, it's just been lower high, lower high, lower high. So keep it simple with the daily downtrend as our guide. 292 and then 285. And if those levels break, then we're going to look at gap fill 279, but that will be bears affirming their control from a blow off top into monthly consolidation. So key support test on MSTR to start this week. BKSY. Still technically a daily uptrend. Well, key support 1575, we'll say. Even if that holds, we got to be cautious of a potential head and shoulders on the daily. But for now, we care about 1575. First thing, the hourly downtrend is our guide. Again, in terms of extended hours levels, because we have no resistance from Friday with a stair-step straight drop, I can look at 1761, and it does mean a little something to me just because there's nothing else nearby. So that is something to be watching. I know that if it's going to be any kind of meaningful hourly bounce, we got to get over that level. If not, the hourly bear flag remains in play. But again, it's just another name that's going to test that low of Friday first thing. If it breaks, the bears will continue their short-term control. If it holds, hourly bounce will be underway, and we'll scout an eventual hourly lower high. Reddit, RDDT. Daily stair-step drops, a lower high every single day now, 8 days in a row. Another name that is going to test. So here's a regular hours level to be watching as resistance. So simple statement, 166.96, we'll call it 167. If the bulls don't break 167, bears keep absolute complete control. It looks pretty similar to Thursday, end of Thursday into a bounce attempt, bears follow through. End of Friday into a bounce attempt, do bears follow through? They got to break 161.88 to do so. We either have to hold 161.88 and break 167, or break low Friday with zero follow through and then break 167 if bulls are going to prove anything. But again, if we do not break 167, bears keep complete control. We will see a daily bounce eventually, but bulls need to prove it. There is a support zone coming into play here. Triple bottom in the 156s. That is the most important midterm support, I'll call it. We'll run through a couple more here. We'll check out where we stand to start the morning with SPY and QQQ, and then the bell will ring. So ASML tried to get a weekly bounce going and rejected. And if we see a bear break of 733 to start the week, we are opening higher. So 733 is a key support to try and prevent that lower high from being set. If we break 733, the bulls will then have to hope for an inverse head and shoulders to try and shape up. As far as the hourly is concerned, resistance 744.48 to be watching first thing. Bulls must confirm an hourly uptrend whenever we top out. So here's again another example. There's no volume here pre-market, but if we do open up here, we've got a good bit of space for an hourly higher low to try and form whenever we top out. Bulls are creating the space for a trend change on the hourly to try and shape up, where many other names do not have anywhere near that much space. Two more. Uber, gap down open, relative weakness. So daily further consolidation underway. Most important daily support is 74.14 to try and keep the daily uptrend going. We have tons of space for an hourly lower high. Again, anything under the high of Friday is an hourly lower high, but we can be watching 79.27 as a resistance level with nothing else nearby. Low of pre-market, 76.93. So bulls are just going to try and form a daily higher low, but they've got to shape up an hourly trend change if a daily higher low is going to be on the menu. And again, clear relative weakness with the gap down open. Not many names are gapping down to start this week. GS doesn't have, again, same thing. Anything under the high of Friday, hourly lower high. We don't have a ton of space above that low. 623 must hold. I can see a little bit of relative weakness. Well, I take that back. XLF had a better bounce than GS. XLF is giving back some of that bounce here pre-market. But again, you know, XLF at least has some space to try and hold low of Friday. And so GS doesn't have as much space. Key support zone being tested here as well. Short term, little double bottom down in the 622, 624s. But I will be watching the financial sector closely this morning to see if it can lead a bit on that bounce. All right, so PLTR weakness. We are testing that level of support first thing. Tesla giving back a good bit of that bounce as well. 15-minute consolidation underway. That break of that little 5-minute base, 342, triggering some sells. Maybe a 15-minute equilibrium will shape up on Tesla, depending on how the first 5+ minutes goes. So we're watching the lows of Friday. Bulls really want to break the highs of pre-market to create the space for an hourly trend change attempt. I don't have any immediate setups that I'm watching here first thing in the first 5-15 minutes of trading. So I'm going to be a bit patient. An aggressive bull is going to watch Tesla for a 15-minute higher low to try and form. We'll get back to other ticker requests as we go. We'll watch PLTR closely here first thing. PLTR is just a clear 5-minute downtrend from pre-market to be watching as well. But again, it's 95.80. Right out of the gate. So bear break. Definitely anticipating Tesla to have some decent volatility with that pre-market action we saw. PLTR quick bounce back to the high of the day. So bulls are going to try for a bear break, no follow through. They've got to confirm a 1-minute uptrend as a starting point. They got to confirm some trends one at a time. But we're going to call it a bear break, no follow through initially. We would need to break the low of the day if bears are going to follow through. And the first resistance on PLTR, there was a little 5-minute lower high at 97.36 on the way down pre-market. Tesla quick bounce, so trying to set that 15-minute higher low. Let's look at Tesla on the 15-minute. Again, bulls still have a bit of proving to do, but trying. PLTR back to the low of the day real quick. Definitely looking like some volatility is going to be there all day today. So XLF is the strongest major sector on my screen initially. NVDA is a lead bull. Apple, nice recovery from pre-market weakness. Quick buying of the dip in Apple. So Apple resistance is going to be 248.69. So I got NVDA and Apple as a couple lead bulls on as far as QQQ is concerned. So bulls want to see them continue to lead the way through the morning. PLTR has a double bottom at the low of the day now, 95. So our initial battle zone for the morning is clearly defined. High of the day and low of the day. QQQ, the high of pre-market level to break to create more space for the bulls is 529.35 coming into play here. XLF and QQQ are near their high of the day at the same time. Bulls would love to see them both continue that. Oftentimes we go inverse between those two sectors. First sign of weakness to end last week. Both QQQ and XLF were dropping and hitting lows together on Thursday. Looks like Amazon and Microsoft are the weaker of the NASDAQ names. They are both slightly red now. Bears are defending QQQ high of pre-market. We just rejected by less than 30 cents. Bears need a new low of the day on QQQ for that to be a hard rejection. PLTR got a new high of the day. So XLF following through on its bounce. Again, lots of space above low of Friday now, comparatively. But QQQ is struggling at that high of pre-market. QQQ back to testing low of day. Meta is now joining the weaker names. So Microsoft, Meta, Amazon on Team Bear. Apple and NVDA trying to hold up Team Bull. PLTR, $100 psychological is going to be a hurdle to keep an eye on this bounce attempt. So again, let's just compare XLF and QQQ real quick. XLF has reclaimed more than half of the drop from Friday. QQQ, not even close. QQQ is still a possible hourly bear flag. And so once I identified the leaders of Team Bull and Team Bear, I watched to see, do the lead bulls weaken and break their lows as NVDA is approaching its low of the day, or do the lead bears strengthen? Tesla still chopping around, battling within its range of the morning initially. NASDAQ did get a new low of the day, so that solidifies further that clear short-term resistance level that's now a triple top from pre-market. And now QQQ is looking back at the low of Friday, 525.71. PLTR bulls are liking how they're positioned considering QQQ's drop. Next check mark for the bulls on PLTR will be confirming a 5-minute uptrend whenever this initial bounce tops out. Got to set that 5-minute higher low and higher high. But again, at this point, it is a bear break zero follow through from the low of last week. CELH. I'd be treating this as an hourly equilibrium from Friday into this morning. High of today is the hourly lower high. Bears want to break 31.87. And then we would look to the low of Friday from there. So it's still in an hourly equilibrium. All about 31.87 support. So again, aggressive QQQ bears have a very clear stop level to use on that short-term top there. Microsoft hitting lowest levels in a while, I think. 400 psychological support. Yeah, these are the lowest Microsoft levels in a couple of months. I have a small runner position left after taking off 2/3 of my swing position from 2022. And I will exit the rest of that position on a break of 380. But relative weakness in MSTR has been a theme over the last couple of months. Tried to shake it with the quantum headline last week, but fresh back to the lows. So if QQQ bulls are going to prove to us that they can defend low of Friday, we've got to break that high of pre-market. PLTR quickly giving back a good bit of that bounce. Again, if you're playing counter trend, definitely need to lock in at least partial positions. XLF still at the high of the day. Easily the lead bull. Nothing's close. High of Friday is 51.50. We'll be keeping an eye on. Tesla trying to creep back to the high of the day. Needs some help from QQQ. AMD. I was watching a falling wedge here a while ago, but it broke bear on earnings. had it like this. I think I ignored that one candle. Had it like that, ignoring just one candle, but bear break. And again, just need a daily trend change. So we must hold 106s and break 116. Otherwise, it's just a daily lower high and a continued long-term downtrend. SMH looking like lead bears today. Aside from NVDA, trying to hold up. Tesla bulls are positioned well, but they need that QQQ 5-minute bounce to get going right about now. With the inverse relationship between XLF and QQQ, I'm going to be keeping an eye out where if XLF fails 5150 high of Friday and starts consolidating, is that what helps to mark a QQQ bounce taking place? I've seen that plenty of times where that has been a thing. One of the sectors rejecting from a key level has the other sector go inverse. Let's zoom in on PLTR and Tesla real quick to see if we've got any equilibriums forming. Tesla's got a 1-minute equal tightening range here. Bears defending 342s, bulls defending 338s. PLTR, bulls are hoping for a 2-minute equilibrium at this point after giving back so much. Gotta hold that low. Microsoft, easily the lead bear. When I first pointed out Microsoft and Amazon, they were both down the same percent. Now Microsoft down 1.7 versus 0.1. NVDA doing a good job holding its low of the day. Apple has rolled over back to weakness. So again, our two lead bulls, one of them is joining Team Bear. Haven't hit the new low of the day yet, but has certainly weakened significantly. So if I'm a QQQ bear, I want to see Apple and NVDA join the low of the day. PLTR back to the low of the day test, unable to establish any support after that quick bounce. AVGO. Same thing, trying to hold the low of Friday. Weekly lower high has been set. And it's just I'd be watching for a weekly equilibrium. So eventually scouting a weekly higher low compared to 196, but obviously no sign of it yet. Earnings are next week. Hourly downtrend is our guide. All about low of Friday, same with QQQ. XLF pulling back just under high of Friday, but QQQ not getting much bounce going. PLTR bear break, so now daily trying to follow through a bit more. If I had played the PLTR bounce, likely would be stopping out break even at this point. Selling partial into the initial 4% bounce, leave a little runner. Bears follow through and stop out. Let's see, what's it going to take for me to get interested in PLTR long at this point? We're in gap fill territory, so there's no levels to go off of. 4 hours oversold, but not extreme. Yeah, I don't have anything that is interesting me on PLTR here in the short term on the long side after that failed morning bounce. AER, AEHR. So we're looking for a daily higher low compared to 10.06. Hourly downtrend is our guide. We broke the low of Friday. Bulls would need to confirm a 5-minute uptrend, break the high of the day to get an hourly bounce going. I would be viewing anything under the high of Friday as an hourly lower high. So again, we need a big enough bounce, create the space, confirm an hourly uptrend if we're going to set a daily higher low. QQQ trying to get the 5-minute bounce going. NVDA back to the high of the day test. Again, it's our lone lead bull at this point. Apple did set a 5-minute higher low. But it's clearly NVDA leading the way. Tesla trying to still stick around the 342 resistance level. So just an example of NVDA and Tesla both holding well during QQQ weakness and just needing a little boost. Just give us a little help. QQQ 5-minute bounce, pushing those two through their resistances. Tesla is not doing so convincingly at this point. And then we'll look at the Tesla high at pre-market as the next level. But first things first, got to turn the 342s into support. We are still struggling there. And we know QQQ, plenty of space for a 5-minute lower high. Energy sector back to red. Tesla bulls are not liking that break. No follow through. Best case for bears from here would be both XLF and QQQ hitting low of the day together, because we've got XLF pulling back hard just under high of Friday, and QQQ is not bouncing hard. NVDA resistance ways away 143s. So again, NVDA, we don't have many examples for the bull side of things, but NVDA is an example where now we have the 50% plus bounce retracement. So there is space trying to form for an eventual hourly higher low. So whenever we top out, we'll keep an eye out for an hourly higher low compared to the low of Friday. But not many other names can say the same. OKLO has earnings coming up. I would be interested long today if earnings were not a factor. Earnings tomorrow. So broke the low of Friday, quick bounce, must confirm the 5-minute uptrend. Then we'll zoom out to the hourly and scout at anything under 41.10 as an hourly lower high. At the moment, it's a bear break, no follow through, but we're only going to continue to call it that if the bulls can confirm the 5-minute uptrend. PLTR couldn't do it. We'll see if OKLO can. PLTR getting ugly. QQQ, new low of the day. Tesla bear break. So bull break, no follow through, rolling over into a bear break. The indices are definitely doing what bears want to see. Starting with the triple top rejection on QQQ, rolling over. And now we're testing low of Friday, 525.71. Bears are in the driver's seat, bigger picture. I don't have a thing to worry about as a bear unless QQQ breaks that high a day. Microsoft holding 400 initially. So QQQ 5-minute downtrend is now going to be our short-term guide. We just set a resistance level at 527.30 on the way down. At this point on PLTR, just because I don't see anything that I like, I hope we have as big a bear day as possible and gap down tomorrow. Then I'll be interested in a bounce, but I'm not going to find anything that I like today, just unless we like really, really dump to extremes. But hourly, 4-hour RSI, not extreme enough for me to be interested in anything. So the one check mark left for the bears that I see would be NVDA new low of the day. Again, if QQQ is going to get ugly under the low of Friday, we want our lead bull to roll over. But we're now confirming our hourly bear flag on QQQ. And again, that daily support from here is 521.95, that weekly support. Well, no, I take that back. Daily support. 521.95. NVDA low of the day as QQQ starts to accelerate a bit to the downside. PLTR taking it on the chin. Tesla approaching its low of Friday. Already broke it by a bit. So now it's just a question of how much follow through are bears going to see. Now another check mark for the bears. You want SPY to break the low of Friday, 599.47. XLV and XLF still holding green. XLV is actually at the high of the day. More of Friday's action going counter than NASDAQ. So here's SPY, low of Friday test. Bears want to see XLF break low of today. Bears are getting what they want, one by one. I'm saying what bears want, and we just keep getting it. Apple does still have a good bit of space above its low of the day. It's going inverse to QQQ. If we fail the high of the day on Apple, we'll have a 5-minute equilibrium. It is now the only team bull leader. NVDA is still green, but big drop to new low of the day. It's also standing out to us. You do not often see the highest volume candle on SPY or QQQ that is not the first 5-minute candle. And this is standing out for the bears. 5th candle in the morning, higher volume than the first. So we're going to stick with QQQ as our 5-minute downtrend guide from here. Space for a 5-minute lower high next bounce. Now it's just a question of how much damage can the bears do. Keeping in mind, SPY is still only down 0.1%. But again, it's just the ideal start to the day for bears after the higher open. Everything changed on Tesla after the new high of day, no follow through. We're now looking back at the daily low of 325.10, 2% away, but that's the next key support. Checking on Bitcoin. Are we dropping here? Yep, Bitcoin dropping with the market. So Bitcoin testing a couple supports, 94.7. If the bulls are going to get any check marks, they've got to hold XLF low of the day. We got to see QQQ gain a 5-minute uptrend. Quantum bears having a good start to the week. RGTI testing consolidation lows at 1024. QUBT fresh lows. IONQ fresh lows. So bears still in full control of the quantum names in the short term. QBTS was the lead bull. It's had a big drop today. Checking out the NASDAQ RSI levels. Are we at extremes? The pre-market bounce cooled things off on the 4-hour and the hourly, so we're not really at extremes aside from, the 15-minute and the 5-minute are beat up. But that's not much. XLV still at the high of the day. XLF hovering just over its low of the day. Again, that QQQ volume keeps increasing here. That is not a normal volume pattern on the morning. I take that back. Fidelity's given me a misread on this candle's volume. But the other one was high. Curious to see when QQQ does get its next 5-minute bounce going, how Apple responds, because it is clearly inverse at the moment. Tesla's 325 is coming into the picture. NVDA on the verge of going red. XLF is a double bottom at the low of the day, so we're going to keep an eye on that level. MSTR broke its monthly inside bars bearish. QQQ is coming up on its daily support, $1 away. Again, as far as I'm concerned, this is a falling knife in NASDAQ names. Not trying to catch it personally. Oftentimes when you get this kind of strong move, you'll get short-term EMAs driving the price down. So I'll watch, if something's in a 5-minute waterfall drop, I'll just watch 1-minute EMA 12. And if we can't get over that, it's an extremely strong bear move. So that's what I'm going to be watching. Next little bounce attempt we get. Do we reject from 1-minute EMA 12? Looking at QQQ, it's not even, we haven't even been touching it on the way down. That's how, it's the magnitude of the drop. One little touch there before rolling over hard. So here's the NASDAQ daily support. And again, that SPY weekly level is what I care most about from here, and that is 590.49, so still 1.5% away. It's getting ugly. That high volume candle following through. Tesla daily support test. XLF broke the low of the day. Another check mark for bears. They've gotten everything they want. Lots of space for 5-minute lower highs next bounce. PLTR has a big bid at 91.25 that is battling, and it broke. XLF is now on the verge of going red. It's the same as Friday. XLV is holding up, but XLV is not nearly enough to help offset XLF and QQQ weakness. Aggressive bulls are going to be watching short-term stair steps if they're going to try a bounce. But again, this is not the environment to just be scaling in. Tesla's battling 325. PLTR, where's that gap fill? Long ways away, 84s. So we're likely to see a 5-minute bounce sooner rather than later, but again, just looking for 5-minute lower highs to be a result. Meta with a lot of bear follow through. MDB support just fell through a couple supports. Next is the 253, 254 zone. So Tesla is attempting to defend this support. Technically broke by some pennies, but no follow through. Apple still holding strong. And here's the 5-minute bounce attempt. We'll watch retracement size. We'll watch that 1-minute EMA 12 I was talking about. That's the first hurdle. So we got XLF and QQQ correlated directly now. Again, on these big bear days, that's what happens to the downside. They're also trying to bounce at the same time, so we're going to continue to monitor that direct correlation. Certainly much less common than the inverse we've been watching the last year and a half. 5-minute bounce underway. We watch our retracement size. And again, that's another way you can compare individual names whose 5-minute bounces have more significant retracement. Meta still hasn't gotten its 5-minute bounce underway yet, so still a little bit of relative weakness there in that regard. Also make note, we got to confirm trend changes one at a time. We haven't confirmed a 1-minute uptrend yet on QQQ. So that step, if this 5-minute bounce is going to see any follow through, we've got to confirm a 1-minute uptrend. And so now on the 5-minute, we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the hourly pre-market. So which names have space for hourly higher lows? The answer was not many. Now it's going to be the same thing on the 5-minute. Who bounces enough to create the space for a 5-minute higher low to be the result of that bounce? Healthcare is over the high of last week. Weekly higher low is set. Now it's all about 148.72 to try and confirm the weekly uptrend. XLP, same thing, still stronger. So as of right now, we're seeing a bit of a repeat of Friday, just in terms of names that are sectors that are stronger and weaker. Aggressive bulls that did go for 5-minute stair steps or a play on Tesla's support definitely want to trim a little bit into the bounce to get in full control of the trade. Still a 1-minute stair step bounce at this point. Bulls will take it, but we've got to confirm trends. Best case for bulls would be confirming some trends on the short term, but also a 50% bounce retracement to create the space for a 5-minute higher low once we top out. Most names doing the same thing. Nothing's really standing out in terms of their bounce sizes. Obviously, Apple's still doing its own thing. Apple might be shaping up a rising wedge. Again, watching to see, does Apple go inverse when other things bounce? Does that mean Apple's going to cool off? Bull break, straight into consolidation. Bull break, straight into consolidation. Now it would need to be a head and shoulders. As we know, oftentimes wedges turn into head and shoulders. Let's compare the XLF bounce to the NASDAQ. XLF, we'll call it 45% bounce retracement from the morning drop. A little bit more than QQQ at this point. SMH semiconductors, 50%, so they're having a better bounce. If you are going to be an aggressive bull, well, never mind. I was going to say, having Tesla short-term extreme heading to a key daily support is a more preferable way, but we didn't actually get that extreme in Tesla because of the morning bull move. 5-minute RSI only barely got oversold. Next hour is going to be pretty important here. The SPY's down 0.24%. It's not really an ugly day as far as the S&P 500 is concerned. But obviously, if this bounce results in lower lows, things stay ugly. One-minute stair steps marking the top of the bounce at this point, giving some aggressive bears to do. Quick 1.5% drop on PLTR after the 1-minute stair step breaks. Apple trying to confirm a little head and shoulders. That would have us look at 15-minute consolidation being underway if they can pull it off. Still holding short-term support at the moment. TEM, definitely one of the better bounces. Very volatile in both directions, but it's created the space, 50% plus bounce retracement. We're going to watch for a tightening range. Bitcoin very correlated to the NASDAQ. Again, semis did have one of the better bounces, but gotta confirm short-term trends. We haven't done that yet. PLTR quickly heading back towards the low of the day. Bear break, so PLTR clearly remaining a lead bear. QQQ still hasn't topped out on the bounce yet in terms of the 5 minute. Stairs step down, stairs step on the bounce still. So no official 5 minute lower high set yet. PLTR bear break, no follow through. Bulls can save this day as far as the broader market is concerned. We just got to stay skeptical of them and make them prove it. Just like we had our check marks for the bears that they kept checking one by one all morning. We need those check marks for the bulls. Confirm a 5 minute uptrend. Have some of our major sectors get back to high of the day at the same time. At this point, bulls would consider anything flat to green as a win, just with how strong that bear morning was. Meta staying weaker. It's testing the low of the day as well. PLTR, decent bounce on the bear break, no follow through. Got to get back over 92.80 to prove any kind of shift there. Just to know, PLTR is now short sale restricted, which means you can only short on the ask, and that does have an impact. When I was trading the quantum names a lot more actively, and I was a bear playing, shorting lower highs on bounces while they were short sale restricted, I was getting frustrated with how it shifted the game a little bit. And again, it's just one of those little points in how markets favor bulls, big picture. There is no long buy restriction, or you can't buy the ask if something's short squeezing. Baba correlating with the NASDAQ as well. We did get to hourly oversold. So bulls really want to see low of the day set here. But again, we are very correlated to QQQ right now. There's a gap on the daily at 127.70. So QQQ 5-minute lower high is officially set. So now our key resistance is 523.79. We must hold the low of the day and break that level. Otherwise, the bears keep complete control. Names that hit a new low of the day first are weaker. Names that bounce, names that break their initial bounce highs will be stronger. XLF still has not officially topped out on its bounce yet. Baidu is testing its last short-term support zone nearby, 86.52. Bears trying to confirm the daily downtrend. Money is flowing to XLV, XLP. You just look at your heat map. And again, these sectors are the less important. So obviously they're not offsetting what the NASDAQ is doing. So there's your green healthcare. Consumer non-durables are green. Communications are green. But yeah, mostly red. So most things fading back towards their low of the day. Bears that want a tight leash are now using that 5-minute lower high as a key level. Apple did not break that support, still hanging on for the bulls in Apple. PLTR is trying to shape up a falling wedge. Obviously, the NASDAQ's going to have to shape up the 5-minute trend change if it's going to follow through it all. But bear break straight into a bounce, bear break straight into a bounce attempt. Again, I'm still not interested in it long just because there's nothing to be going off of. I've got no support level nearby. I've got bear correlation all morning. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, the most important thing here in the short term is can bulls confirm the 5-minute uptrend? If they do, we will zoom out to the 15-minute time frame. If they don't, the bears keep their complete control. The day is not over in the sense that bulls can save this day. But again, they've got to start putting in the work here. Confirm the 5-minute uptrend, recover 50% plus of the bounce. PLTR is breaking that 1-minute falling wedge bull. If we fail 91.40 resistance, keep an eye for a little inverse head and shoulders attempt. Just make the bulls prove it. Be skeptical. Bears proved it all morning, and if things are going to shift, the bulls got to prove it one time frame at a time, starting with the 5-minute. Thanks for the likes and the shares. Thanks for joining on the YouTube stream. And check out the chart, guys, if you're interested in more. And even if you're not, there is tons of free educational content to search on our website. I'll take a quick breather, and I'll be back in the chat room for everyone else shortly. Have a great rest of your day.